Superintendent of the Webster Public Schools. I want to thank you all for coming tonight to our kickoff Bartlett High School project meeting. I'm just going to let you know that we are recording this meeting so that other people can watch it. It will be posted on our website. Before I start, I do want to introduce my team of people that have been working diligently on this project. I'd like to introduce Monique Perangeli, Mr. Fran Thomas, the principal of Bartlett High School, Mrs. Gina Neves, the assistant principal, and some central office staff are on, Jill Chapdelaine, director of curriculum, and Patty Mackay, our Title I director. I know that our OPM and our architects will introduce their team. I want to give a shout out to all of our teachers who have worked with us on the educational visioning. And I want to just kind of get into the meat of the meeting. The purpose of tonight's meeting is really to keep everyone informed and provide you an update on the Bartlett High School building project, where we are, and a little bit more about our educational visioning. We started this many years ago, even before I was a superintendent. Bartlett had applied, I think, 6 times to MSBA for a Bartlett project. And on the 6th time, they were accepted. And we were accepted by the Massachusetts Building Authority in 2008 to work with MSBA to explore options for a Bartlett High School project. It's important to note that the educational planning for the future is the driving force for any MSBA project that they work with communities on. We have been through the eligibility phase where we worked on an educational questionnaire, and we did that with our Bartlett High School teachers and administrators. The educational vision started to take some shape with that, and it was really grounded in what opportunities can we build for our Bartlett High School students so that they can truly explore what their talents and strengths are, and then you immediately use those skills upon graduation. Throughout this project, we are truly hoping to expand our existing programs, and that will be explained in more detail tonight. And briefly, we are in the feasibility phase, and collectively with the school building committee members, many which are here, I'll give a shout out to David Hurton, Ted Avalos, Lisa Contos, Gina Nieves, Tony Peranto, Al Young, Sheila Blythe, Tim Bell, Doug Willitson, and the administration team at the Webster Public School. We've been working collaboratively with the school building committee and our teachers and staff, and we've been working with our architects and our OPM on a preliminary design. We submitted the preliminary design to MSBA on April 16th, and we're currently waiting for feedback from the MSBA. Once we receive the MSBA feedback, we will review it and make necessary adjustments to our educational plan. We then have to submit a preferred schematic design in July 7th. You're going to see some options tonight that have emerged from the educational visioning plan that we have been putting together over the past year. The educational visioning plan is not something that you can sit down and write in one sitting. It's something that has evolved through multiple conversations and collecting feedback from teachers and staff. And we had the great opportunity to work with educational consultant David Stevens, who will be at some future forums. And he facilitated meetings with our teachers and administrators to really help us figure out what our educational priorities are for the future of Bartlett. We created multiple lists, and then we sorted and minimized those lists. But some of those priorities you're going to hear tonight are around expanding educational opportunities, providing equitable access for students, finding new ways to provide hands-on project-based learning opportunities, and increasing college and career pathways for our students while maintaining the healthy and safe environments that we all want for our students. We are really excited about what the future brings and for our students and for the community with this project, and we're eager to share with you tonight. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Kent Kovacs, the architect and VP of Flansburgh. He will begin our presentation tonight. And before Kent starts, if people could put their questions in the chat box, we would love to collect those questions, answer them, and then post the answers on our website.
Great, thank you. I'm going to get started. I'm Kent Kovacs with Flansburgh Architects, and I also have Vince Duvey, a senior project manager with Flansburgh, as well as Jessica Libby, a designer who's been on this project since the beginning. I also know the OPM from Colliers is here, Ken Guyette and John Bates. And so the team's been working really hard since the beginning of the year, and it's been a great group to work with. And we really appreciated meeting with the teachers, as the superintendent had said, for the visioning sessions. And we intend to do more of that as well. So I'm going to share my screen. And just let me know. Did you see that advance?
Yes.
Okay. And so we're just going to touch base on the first phase, which was the PDP. And that was all about collecting information, the existing conditions. And Vince will go into detail, the educational planning and programming. That's what the superintendent will share with us with Gina and Fran later on. Then some proposed design alternatives, and we'll get into a little bit of schedule. But we have a lot to cover. So if from the community you've been paying attention to and participating in the school building committees, you would have seen a lot of this information. So it's not new, but we're just going to give you a quick recap. So when it comes to the existing conditions, the design team's required by the MSBA to look at the site and all the building systems. And you can see all the different trades that we worked with in the beginning of the year, from landscape architects, civil engineers, mechanical, fire protection, handicap accessibility. We had a thermal envelope specialist, as well as a wetland scientist. So a lot of different trades were on campus evaluating the building. And that helps us understand where we can go with the vision and how spaces can adapt to this building, and not just inside the building, but future program outside when we come to some of the site design, such as parking, drop-off, learning areas outside, perhaps additional athletic areas. And we're currently looking at a traffic study, also some geotechnical evaluation on site. We also like to kind of dig back in the past and see how we got here, because knowing that lets us know some of the problems that we may incur, or what how the site transformed. And so when we look at civil engineering and landscape design, this is going to help us understand kind of stormwater and just general site design. So you can see pre-high school, mainly kind of vegetated areas, and the high school appears, and then current campus with the middle school, as you see today. So again, collecting a lot of information lets us focus on the design and understand how best to deal with issues like stormwater, traffic, and again, extending the learning opportunities outside. This is just a graphic showing the site plan. We had wetland scientists come and flag the wetlands, and come to survey those flags. And with the MSBA, you're going to see an option of new construction. You have a great building with great bones, but it's a requirement to look at new construction. So we need to define an area on site that we could do that. And then understanding our boundaries when it comes to wetlands helps us determine the buildable site, and as well as any future athletic or outdoor learning spaces. We also inventoried the existing building from the basement to the first floor to the second floor. It was important to track the square footage of each of these spaces and the quantity, because there is a guide from the Massachusetts School Building Authority that outlines all the various spaces and what state standards are for a typical classroom, and what special education spaces look like, and how large an auditorium should be. So we needed to create an existing conditions inventory list of your spaces. And that's what the MSBA evaluates when they look at the overall proposed program. And these are the categories of your existing school. We've aligned them with the MSBA. So core academic or classrooms and science labs, special education, art and music, and so on. And you can see that this is the area of square footage per category. And overall, you have a very large building when it comes to the population being studied for this. So it's a building that's approximately 185,000 gross square feet. And the student enrollment for this study is 445 students. So that's a much smaller building, and we'll get into what that means in the future slides. But this is our baseline. We start with your existing building and inventorying the size of it and the types of spaces. And Vince, if you want to give us a brief summary on the systems.
Okay, thanks, Kent. Yes, as Kent mentioned, we had a lot of different engineers walk through this building and just to do an evaluation. So, but we know, and talking to the facilities people, that there are several issues currently in the building. So the roof, we know, has a lot of leak in the past, and it's also currently leaking. And so the roof is old, and we would need to replace that. The windows and the doors, the same thing. Windows are hard to close. They don't close all the way in some cases. Some of them have been screwed shut. So it's a problem with just, making sure that we have good control and conditioning in the building. Some of the interior partitions, most of it is block, so it's good, but there are some movable partitions that between classrooms that is not as good as far as acoustical is concerned. And so that creates some issues potentially for teachers in between classes. And the interior finishes, again, because the building is older, and again, this is a well-maintained building, but over the years, it just has been worn down. So some of the casework has been worn and some of the flooring is worn. And so basically, anytime you're doing some interior upgrades, all of those finishes would get replaced. And we talk about a little bit of security. There are updated security measures. Some of the things that they did do in the schools, some upgrades there, but there are still some areas that we could still improve on with some, rework of the places, of the spaces. So, okay. Change that, Ken, yeah. Okay, so structurally, there's some concerns. Everybody sees some things on the, some cracking or something, and the first thing everybody thinks it's a structural issue, but we had our structural engineer go out there, and structurally everything is performing well. There's no real sign of settlement. There was some initial cracking that happened early on, and that's been determined, based on our structural review of not really being significant, other than the fact that it happened early on and concrete tends to crack. The exterior envelope, again, the brick is in pretty good shape overall. There are a couple of places, and that picture on the right shows, a place a couple of bricks fell off, and that would probably have to get addressed sooner than later. But mostly the exterior envelope is in good shape physically, but thermally it's not as great. Some of the insulation in the wall is very minimal compared to what we would do today. And, we wouldn't necessarily have to upgrade that if we were just doing a code upgrade for the exterior wall, but any kind of a significant renovation to the school, we would definitely add more insulation to the exterior wall system. The HVAC, again, we had our HVAC engineer go out, and again, this equipment is really old from the original part of the building. So a lot of it is outdated and barely working. I would say it's working, but it's, it could use some benefit of upgrades. And so anything that we're going to do with creating a better building and more efficient building would replace all of the old mechanical systems. So the ductwork, the exhaust fans, and the boiler. There was some new boiler put in, but the termination of that flue over the roof was not really as high as it should be. So we would have to correct that down in the future. Next. And then again, electrically, we had our electrical engineer and different panel boards, and you can see telecommunications. Telecommunication cables are terminated in closets that are, not necessarily current to what we would do again for technology. So it's again, the current technology is there, but it's just not as robust as we would like it to be for a new school or for upgraded schools. So the existing infrastructure, like I said, is good for the time being, but it could be improved.
Great. Thanks, Vince.
Okay.
Also, we did observations just on general layout and the feel and circulation and access points. And this is just a simple diagram that shows how you circulate from each of the different wings. The building's very well organized, building, wing A, B, and C. But it feels, I would say at times, a bit cavernous. There's a lack of natural light, and the rooms are more rooms off of a corridor, not necessarily what you would see today. Things are based on academic neighborhoods and team rooms that are part of the larger corridors, and a lot of connection to the outside. And so those are ideas that came from the educational visioning that we'll speak to later. And this is just an example of the building's very wide at different points. And so interior wise, it's not getting natural light. So again, you feel somewhat cavernous. There's artificial light there, But again, it's really a long corridor that kind of stretches across the site and links to the different wings. And so there's room for improvement there. And there's some solutions that we've been investigating as part of the study. And also, this was something we talked about with the teachers at our initial kickoffs on the programming. The interior classrooms, these are not very desirable because they don't have exterior windows and they have poor ventilation. And there's opportunities here. Again, this is one of the areas where if some of these interior classrooms were removed, you could see that you could create an interior courtyard and bring natural light into the plan, as you see in that image on the left. And so these are some of the strategies we're looking at for this school to kind of give it new life and make it more aligned with what we're seeing with other MSBA school projects. And just as an example, the cafeteria, this is an area that's more of an infill piece between building A and B. With a lot of ADA concerns. It has 3 level changes, and then just its thermal quality has a lot of exterior glazing that needs to be replaced, and then the roof is a sloped roof that needs to be replaced. So spaces like this at times can cost just as much as new construction to remedy. And so there are some design solutions where we're proposing to remove this because of its high cost and kind of locate it within a community wing. So we're just sharing you with different areas we feel the building can be improved upon. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to the superintendent and her team.
Thank you, Kent. So the work that we've been doing about improving educational programming did not just start with the Bartlett High School project. I just want to put that out there. We've been working and looking at how to improve our programming and student engagement and ensure that each one of our students has the ability to discover their own talents at school. We've been looking at, advancing career and college conversations well into our middle school. And then along came this wonderful opportunity with MSBA being accepted. And the other opportunities that have presented themselves have been the ability to apply for Innovation Pathways grants. And a shout out goes to Mr. Thomas and his team for taking the steps to apply for the Innovations Pathways grant. So this year, for next year, Bartlett High School has been designated an Innovative Pathway High School. And what does that mean? That means that next year over at Bartlett High School, we will be starting the Advanced Manufacturing and Project Lead the Way courses for our students. So some of our students will be taking Intro to Engineering and then courses like Principles of Engineering and Computer Integrated Manufacturing, and with the goal of, as a senior, having a senior internship year. So we've already locked into some different and new programming to expand opportunities for our students. We are also been designated to have a Health and Human Service pathway, and those courses are going to start next year as well. That is not as developed as the Advanced Manufacturing, but we are working to develop those opportunities. With the building project and the ability to create new spaces, we've been brainstorming all sorts of ideas. Mr. Thomas will speak a little bit about how we came up with these 2 areas when he talks, but part of what I would like you to know here is that what we're trying to do with our educational programming is build off of some of our existing programs. For example, we have a medical careers club, and we could envision having a health and human service pathway and health and human service lab where students could actually have real experiential, hands-on ability to learn other than a traditional typical classroom. We've also talked about having a makerspace and expanding our media center, which would expand our business and English and arts programming. And we have a preschool program in our district. The preschool used to be located over at the high school, and we've talked about the pros and cons of moving it back over to the high school, and the pros have outweighed the cons, where we could bring some of our preschool classrooms back to Bartlett High School and expand our early childhood opportunities by giving our high school students real hands-on experiences with students, whether they want to become a paraprofessional or an early educator. And we already have a future teachers program, but the students have to go over to the middle school. So the ease of having something in our school would hopefully increase interest in students going down that road. with all of the things that I just talked about, I've kind of hit these areas. Our educational vision includes 2 additional labs on top of our 4 science labs. And one of those labs is a simulated healthcare center where we could develop credentialing and coursework for students, whether they want to become CNAs or lab techs or learn more about becoming an EMS technician. Our media center, we would love to expand to create an in-house media station where students could create their own podcasts, TV, radio station. We could see them doing stuff for the community. These things were in our original SOI, along with our designation of being an innovative pathway school and getting the Project Lead the Way grant. We would need a space where students could do hands-on advanced manufacturing work, whether that's creating molds or laser engraving. Giving students that hands-on experience is going to give them a leg up when employees, local employees are looking for people to hire. We've been, I think, very conscious of being efficient and effective with prioritizing what we want, because certainly when you start in an educational visioning process, the sky is the limit. But we've really kind of fine-tuned what we could offer and how things could expand with what you're seeing on this page. Having a makerspace, offering pre-K abilities for our students to get real life experiences. I think that's one of the major pieces of the educational visioning. We're really trying to move away from that traditional sit in the classroom and have information taught to you and regurgitate it. We're trying to get kids involved and engaged in careers, potential careers, whether they're going to college or whether they're going to work, and having some marketable skills before they leave high school.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Fran Thomas. I'm fortunate enough to be principal at Bartlett High School. One of the things that we are very fortunate with already is the caliber of our industry partners who have committed through this Innovation Pathways process. We have IPG, Photonics, Gentex Optics, the Mass MEP Partnership, Christopher House Skilled Nursing Rehabilitation Center and Open Sky, Mental Health Services. We had a tentative agreement with UMass Memorial, but there's something going on recently called COVID, which kind of was their priority for a while, but we look forward to rejoining them later on when perhaps it's a little less hectic. But here's some of the opportunities that we want our students to have. MACWIC, which is the Manufacturing Advanced Center Workforce Innovation Collaborative. It's a 5-step credentialing pathway. Level 1 is the very beginning. It means that students have had experience with like shop math, blueprint reading, basic lab safety. Then there's OSHA General Industry, OSHA Healthcare, Laboratory Safe Procedures, NIMS, which is run through FEMA. They are the ones that credential like machine shop. And then of course, we're looking at CPR, CNA, home health aid. The idea being that the more credentials and experience that we can get for our students, they are going to be attractive as employees upon graduation. And the areas that we chose for Innovation Pathways weren't random. Those are 2 of the 3 highest demand areas in the greater Worcester area and are projected to be so for the next 5 to 10 years at least. One of the things under NIMS that they certify is CNC machining, which is computerized numerical control. There's a high demand for that. In our Project Lead the Way courses, in some of the affiliated courses, such as algebraic T1 programming, are going to prepare students for those job opportunities when they graduate. And like Dr. Gogan said, one of the things that is a requirement of an innovation pathway is an internship as a senior. So our students through this program, which will be greatly enhanced by the new building with the stuff that we can bring in there. As I said, CNC machining, you can't practice that without CNC machines. So this is going to be a great opportunity for us, and it coincided fantastically with the building opportunity. So as Dr. Gogan said, the advanced manufacturing is a little bit more defined right now than the healthcare, but that's because healthcare can go off into so many different directions. We're going to work collaboratively with our industry partners. Some of the things that will happen, we will have to enhance some of the skills that we do and create new courses. But we are very flexible. And the last bullet here is very important. It's all contingent upon collaboration with our industry partners and meeting local area high demands. And I think, like I said earlier, we're very fortunate that we already have a number of high quality industry partners who have said unequivocally that they're committed to this process. So basically, when I went to school, most traditional high schools were like, hey, our job is to get you prepared for a 4-year college. That traditional model isn't working for anybody these days, which is one of the reasons why the Innovation Pathways program was started by the state. A lot of our students go directly into the workforce, but they're not going into high wage jobs. So they need industry experience prior to graduation in order to enter a workforce and earn a living wage. We also find out that a lot of our kids that go to a 2-year community college, they don't really have a plan when they go in there. Some of our kids who go to 4-year colleges don't actually have a plan. They just know that they're supposed to go to college. But this will give them the type of experience that they need to pursue things. And there's a lot of opportunities for alignment between our industry partners. It's not unheard of for an industry to take an interest in a student and pay for their further education, because they know that further down the line, they're going to get someone who's experienced and committed to their company. So there's a lot of opportunities for alignment with this. But the other big thing is, if you look at the enrollment in our district, the triangle's kind of upside down. There's many more kids at the elementary school. There's less than that at the middle school, and then there's less than that at the high school. So we want to retain our students. And if we change our programming, make it more hands-on and engaging and more transparent with pathways, so students realize that they're investing in themselves, we think we're going to be able to do that. I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Nieves now, our assistant principal.
So with all of that new programming that Mr. Thomas had talked about, we've had to reimagine our learning spaces to get the most out of, that programming. So we're talking about a centrally located healthcare lab, as well as the advanced manufacturing lab and the makerspace being at the center of our school. Additional neighborhood clusters where we're in groups throughout the entire building. We're not, just the math section, the English section, so everyone can collaborate. It was mentioned earlier to enhance and bring in more natural light with improved ventilation into all of our spaces, as well as the expansion of our classrooms into those outdoor learning spaces. So that with all of this reimagining, we can see 3 different pieces within our building. We can have a community wing, an academic wing, and a district wing, all within that one school.
That's great. And from the visioning sessions, this is what that looks like as diagramming goes. And we go from the big idea into diagramming, and then this is the bones of the floor plans that will be developed. And here are those 3 distinct zones that was a focus: the district area with the community resource, adult education, a district office, and potentially the pre-K incorporated into that, this central academic hub, And then of course, the community wing where you can have those large venues of the cafeteria, the auditorium and gymnasium in their own area that can be secured and locked off. So there's a lot of control with this diagram. And then we go into some of the details of some of the exciting programs, such as the Digital Media Lab that was spoken about earlier, associated with the Media Center. And we have English language support spaces, special education, large group spaces that all need to be clustered around that. And then pre-K, of course, the play area, parent parking. But there's a great push to have the life skills program associated with the pre-K. So we're capturing all these great conversations in diagram form. And this is what translates to the design of the building, and see how your existing building lends itself to all these great ideas. The innovation cluster, when you come in and you see the great things that are happening with advanced manufacturing, technology, business, the makerspace, and then having the opportunity to connect to the outside is very important for working on projects. So a great connection inside and out. And then again, the community cluster, you come in to the community cluster that's part of that district wing with the community resource, the health classroom, the healthcare pathway, and that's associated with the nurse. So we have these district kind of related programs that are contained within a pod themselves. So again, those were kind of taking the big ideas and how do you show that graphically, and then that translates into the plan. And so with that, I'm going to quickly go through some of the options. There's a lot of information here, but we thought it's important that you get to see how the MSBA template for a school of 445 students weighs against your existing building. So your existing building is much larger programmatically than the MSBA because it was designed as a larger building initially. MSBA standards is what we feel kind of low, but it's 100,000 square feet and change compared to 184,000 square feet. And really that becomes part of what the enrollment is and what the MSBA projected for your district. And that's 445 students in the high school. When you look at the MSBA standards, really a 900 student population would fit inside your building. So the school building committee has done a great job, trying to understand this, and it's great that you have the space, but it's a challenge working with the MSBA in their standards as well, because as you see, it's lower. And so understanding that there is surplus space and some of the great programs that the school's been doing for many years, the innovation pathway, the district office is already part of your program. That becomes part of this proposed program that was submitted to the MSBA at 158,000. So many of the options you're going to see are based on that 158,000 square foot building. Again, above the MSBA standards, and we wait for their comments after reviewing our first report and to see what they'll support within the school. And these are the options that they lay out. Option 1, we're required to do this. This is just bringing it up to a base code. It's more of a repair job without removing any components, removing any walls. So really you move in a new mechanical roof, you can add a new ceiling and fire protection, but it doesn't align with other MSBA projects that are going on right now where you have enhanced envelopes. You have that synergy with neighborhoods because you can reprogram it. And that begins to happen in option 2, where we kept the larger square footage of your building. We met the 158,000 program, and then we have some unassigned space as well. But again, we're not proposing removing any pieces to meet that program. But in option 2, we can begin to move some strategic walls around to create that synergy in that neighborhood connection. Option 3 is an option that retains 86% of the existing at 158,000 square feet. So that aligns with the proposed program. But the strategy here is you have to take something away. So we're trying to find areas that are inefficient, that will cost more to renovate and replace. And you can actually save money and bring the cost down by removing some area and align with the program. And the same thing happens for option 4. We're doing our due diligence here, looking at a variety of options, and this one removes some more of the existing. And then as required by the MSBA, new construction. And here are some of those strategies just mapped out in massing form. Option 1 and 2 retain 100% of the existing school. Here are some strategies in option 3 As you can see, when we went through that existing conditions, we have those interior classrooms that we remove from the building and get natural light and ventilation into the heart of those wings. And by removing the cafeteria, which would be very costly to replace, we relocate that into a new community wing. And again, we kind of transform the building in a way and also align with the educational program. And option 4 goes a step further by removing more existing and adding a larger addition. So option 1, just quickly, this is the base repair. So in this option, no interior walls have been moved. You see some dark gray spaces. Those are unassigned spaces because they cannot be programmed. And there's also within the cafeteria, the student population is smaller, so there's surplus cafeteria space. So again, we're not able to create the synergy by moving some select walls around and aligning with the state standards for space. So a lot of the classrooms are undersized, a lot of the special education spaces are undersized. But we did our best to move the program around to create those clusters. And on the second floor, the science labs really stay where they are, but they do not meet the MSBA Science Initiative and OSHA requirements for today. And again, the media center is a very large space and it's not necessarily activated with the great program we discussed earlier. And it still remains just a very large volume, and majority of the classrooms remain undersized. But we're required to do this and just show you what the plan can be. But again, no walls are removed, but we do replace the mechanical systems and put paint on it. And it's really should be considered a repair project. We looked at how this would be phased, probably over 30 months, require portable classrooms, and just by wing. First would be A, followed by B and C. So this would be kind of a 3-phase project that you'd see by wing. So it's one of the advantages of the way the building's designed that the construction and the contractor can come in efficiently and renovate by wing. So option 2, same size without removing any of your additional square feet, but again, it's over the proposed program. This is a general site plan. Here, we're able to actually work on the exterior. So we can redefine bus drop-offs, walkways, capture outdoor dining. We have a new play area to support the preschool. So here we can begin to do some site work as one of these options beyond that baseline repair job, and potential to expand and renovate that multi-purpose field and track over on the east side. And on this one, we begin to remove some walls, but we haven't reduced the square footage, but we're able to create that community resource healthcare pathway and nurse suite. In the center of the school, we have the innovation cluster, but again, the advanced manufacturing doesn't have windows, and we have surplus space that's highlighted in that gray tone. And oftentimes when we try to plan, that surplus space, because it's undefined, restricts us from optimizing the proper adjacencies. And then upstairs is very similar to the past option, but here we're able to relocate new science labs across the hallway. So it'll reduce disruption to the district office below and meet our OSHA and our MSBA standards. And phasing very similar to the previous option, approximately 30 months and by wing. So now we get into option 3. This is one that begins to align with the space summary and the square footage, and takes advantage of those strategies by looking at some of the more inefficient areas, such as those interior classrooms and the cafeteria. Overall site plan similar to the previous phase, but if you notice where the cafeteria was, now we reclaim more green space with the play area, and we have more opportunities on the site. And then going back to the educational vision in that diagram, this is the first option that really aligns with that diagram, where on the left side you have this district program. In the heart of the school is the academic wings with the innovation cluster, and then a true community wing that can be locked off for after hours and improved supervision with the auditorium, the gym, and then the cafeteria relocated in C wing. And then up above, we're beginning to carve out those neighborhood clusters, create synergy with the digital media lab and the media center with computer science. Science labs are improved, and our classrooms, again, have natural light flooding in because we've removed those interior classrooms. Phasing very similar, over 10 months with some overlapping, And here we'll start in the reverse because we're relocating the mechanical. We're in phase 1 with the C wing and then B, and then closing out in A wing. And then option 4 to study goes a little more aggressive and removes more of the existing. So you can see highlighted in blue, the gym is retained in option 4, and we remove more of the existing space and create a performing arts center and an improved cafeteria. And again, we're just looking at different kind of measures to do our due diligence when we submit to the MSBA, and also when we communicate such as these in these community forums, that we're doing our job and looking at all options. So this is an option that aligns with that basic diagram of the district program, the academic, and then the community wing. But again, it creates a new auditorium and stage, band and chorus, and a performing arts center. And then the dining here would be located to the north. Very similar plan to the previous options on the upper level. And then phasing similar to the previous option 3. And then option 5, as required by the MSBA, is to look at new construction. So you can see the new 2-story building at 158,000 square feet built in the area of the softball and baseball field out of those wetlands, as that first site plan I showed you in the beginning. And new baseball and softball located after the existing Bartlett High School would be removed, with potential for multi-purpose field and track over to the east. Basic diagram plans illustrating how it might work and separating the community from the academic area. And then phasing, phase 1, the new buildings built over the fields. Phase 2, the Bartlett High School would be removed, and phase 3 would be the work on the athletic fields. And that concludes the design alternatives. And I'll just quickly look at the schedule, and after this we can open up for questions. Today is the community forum. We have another one on June 17th. On July 7th, we're submitting the preferred option to the MSBA, and the MSBA will review and vote on that option August 25th. And that's just a kind of a general look at the schedule of this project. And with that, I can open it up for any questions or any comments.
Bueller,
Chat's been very quiet.
we're happy to answer any questions off screen as well. You can definitely call myself or Mrs. Perangeli or Mr. Thomas. And if there are questions related to our architect or OPM, we will pass them along and get answers to you. I will say this has been a very exciting time to start to think differently about what we want to do at Bartlett. It's also been very challenging. You know, it hasn't been easy trying to prioritize and be fiscally responsible in our thought processes and match up what we really want to offer our students at the high school. That remains our core mission, to provide the best that we can do for our kids. So we hope that this forum was helpful for everyone to see it. I know for me, once we started to do the bubbling, it really started to feel like we were talking about some meat and potatoes, and it had some context to it. So we will continue to keep everyone informed as we walk through this, I think, very long process, but we are interested in collecting your feedback and answering your questions. So please don't be shy. I'm a teacher. I'm giving proper wait time. well, I want to thank everyone for attending. And we will be on again for a public forum on June 17th at 7 p.m. after our regularly scheduled school building committee meeting at 6, which you're all welcome to join. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.